Look, I finally found the exact cheat code to flip the office hierarchy and make those toxic coworkers absolutely fear you. Right now, you're probably tiptoeing around the break room like a scared little mouse. You're swallowing their passive aggressive garbage, drafting pathetic little HR complaint emails in your head, and trying to kill them with kindness. Let's be brutal for a second. That soft approach is tragically weak. It's exactly why they keep eating you alive. You're feeding their sick little ego trip just by acting like the perfect compliant prey. They thrive on your hesitation. But we are completely done playing defense today. I'm going to hand you an absurdly simple psychological nuke that shatters their reality. We aren't playing petty office politics. We are hacking their deepest insecurities. Once you drop this ruthless boundary-setting move, you literally cut off their oxygen supply. You stop being their victim, and you become the one untouchable person in the building they are terrified to cross. Ready to make them sweat? 4. The boring matrix. Toxic people do not want a peaceful resolution. They want a reaction. They are emotional vampires, constantly probing your perimeter to see where the weak spots are. Every time you show visible frustration in a meeting, you lose. Every time you type out a defensive 3-paragraph email explaining why you were late on a deadline, you lose. Every time you overshare details about your stressful weekend or your annoying landlord, you are quite literally handing them free ammunition. You think you are building rapport or being authentic. They are just collecting data. They are building a profile on your insecurities to use against you when the time is right. Look at the standard office nice guy. He gets insulted, his face turns red, and he immediately starts rambling to justify his existence to a person who actively wants him to fail. It's painful to watch. Reacting emotionally to a toxic coworker is like trying to put out a fire by throwing gasoline on it. You need to become a concrete wall. You need to practice absolute emotional starvation. Psychologists call this the gray rock method, but in corporate warfare, it's about becoming aggressively, painfully uninteresting. You drain all the dopamine out of the interaction for them. When they walk up to your desk and try to rope you into toxic office gossip just to test your loyalty and see if you'll bite, you do not smile. You do not agree. You say, I don't engage in that. I need to focus on this task. Then you turn back to your screen. When they try to trigger you with a completely unfair, snide critique about a project you spent 3 weeks on, do not raise your pulse. Do not defend the project. Shrug your shoulders, look at them blankly and say, that's possible, or we see things differently. Then walk away, and that's it. End of transaction. Why does this terrify them? Because a manipulator's entire survival strategy depends on controlling your emotional thermostat. When they push a button and the machine does not beep, they panic. They realize they have zero leverage over your mental state. You become a dead end, and toxic people are fundamentally lazy. When they realize you require too much effort, they will immediately move on to easier prey. 3. The paper trail guillotine. Toxic people thrive in the dark, undocumented corners of the office. Their favorite hunting grounds are casual hallway conversations, unrecorded Zoom calls, and quick chats by the coffee machine. Why? Because in those spaces, there is no proof. They will look you in the eye, agree to handle a specific client issue, and then 3 days later, when the client is furious, they will sit in a meeting and say, I never agreed to that. I thought you were handling it. And who does the boss believe? The person who sounds more confident. Spoiler alert, the toxic person has been practicing lying for a decade. They will always sound more confident than your stuttering, panicked defense. Relying purely on your memory and a handshake in a corporate environment isn't noble. It's corporate suicide. You are operating on the naive assumption that everyone goes to work to play fair. They don't. You must never let your memory be the only record of an interaction. You need to weaponize your documentation. If you have a suspicious one-on-one meeting with the office snake, you do not just walk back to your desk and hope for the best. You sit down and immediately drop a time-stamped email to them. Just to recap our verbal conversation, so we are perfectly aligned, I will proceed with X, and you have committed to delivering Y by Tuesday at noon. Let me know if I missed anything. Silence is confirmation. If they try to back out later, you don't argue. You forward the email Take it a step further. Stop hiding your progress in private direct messages. Communicate your wins, your updates, and your project handoffs in public Slack channels or team meetings. Hey team, just dropping the final deck here. Since Dave and I agreed he will take over the client presentation tomorrow. You just trapped Dave in front of the whole department. When a toxic person realizes you operate with a lethal, organized, and highly visible paper trail, they will fear you. They cannot gaslight a timestamp. They know that if they try to throw you under the bus, you aren't going to cry to HR. You are going to pull up the exact receipts and orchestrate their corporate execution right there in the email thread. Before we cover point 2, pay close attention. Make sure you stick around for point 1 because it is the ultimate God-tier macro strategy that bypasses HR entirely and makes you literally untouchable. And by the way, if you're watching this and still plan to just work harder tomorrow to avoid office politics, you're choosing to be a victim. The only thing crazier is not hitting subscribe right now to actually fix your career. Let's continue. 2. Weaponize literalism. Toxic coworkers survive almost entirely on plausible deniability. They deal in the currency of passive-aggressive snark, backhanded compliments, and subtle eye rolls. They are the absolute masters of the disguised insult. Why do they do this? Because at their core, they are cowards. They want to draw blood without leaving a weapon at the crime scene. They throw a rock, hide their hand, and sit back to watch what you do. They expect one of 2 things. Option 1, you shrink in self-doubt, nervously laugh off the insult, and accept a lower status. Option 2, you explode in anger, raise your voice, and make a scene. If you choose option 2, they win. They instantly play the victim, throw their hands up, and tell everyone, "Whoa, I was just joking. Why are you so sensitive?" Now you look like the unstable emotional liability in front of leadership, and they look like the innocent victim. It's a perfect trap. I used to fall for this constantly in my early career. I used to nervously laugh and try to explain my qualifications to people who actively wanted me fired. I was a clown handing out free tickets to my own circus. Stop laughing at jokes that are designed to publicly humiliate you. You strip away their shadow by taking every single passive-aggressive jab brutally, uncomfortably, and literally at face value. You force them to explain the joke. Imagine you are in a meeting and the toxic coworker smirks and says, "Wow, I'm surprised they actually let you lead this project." Do not defend your qualifications. Do not list your degrees. Do not raise your voice. You pause. You let a heavy, awkward silence fill the room for 3 entire seconds. You look them dead in the eye, keep your voice completely flat, and calmly ask, "That's an interesting comment. What exactly do you mean by that?" You just flipped the spotlight entirely onto them. You just handed them the microphone and asked them to explain their insult to the entire room. Watch them squirm. Watch them stutter. "Oh, just that it's a big project. I didn't mean anything by it." Keep staring. Don't bail them out. Make them sit in the uncomfortable silence they created. What if they try the classic move of stealing your idea? You suggest something, they shoot it down, and 5 minutes later they rephrase it and present it as their own. Do not act outraged. Lean forward and say, "I'm so glad you agree with the exact strategy I just outlined a moment ago. Let's build on that." By forcing them into the light to explain their hidden insults, you trap them. They will immediately backpedal because cockroaches scatter when you turn on the lights. They will never try a passive-aggressive joke on you again because they know you will make them explain the punchline until it physically hurts. 1. The Upward Alliance Shield. Here is the ugliest, most damaging corporate lie you have ever been fed by HR, by your parents, and by society. Just put your head down, do good work, be a team player, and the results will speak for themselves. Absolutely false. If you just put your head down and do your work in silence, you do not become a respected professional. You become a disposable meat shield. You become a workhorse that everyone else rides to their own promotions. Toxic people are predators. And what do predators look for in the wild? They do not attack the strongest animal in the herd. They do not attack the animal standing next to the alpha. They look for the animal that has wandered off by itself. They specifically target the isolated. If you refuse to play office politics because you think it's beneath you, or because you think your spreadsheets are so good they grant you immunity, you have already lost the game. And do you honestly think the toxic guy in your office ever attacks the vice president's favorite project manager? Do you think he talks down to the guy who plays golf with the CEO? Of course not, because he isn't crazy. He likes his paycheck. You bypass the toxic coworker entirely by building a fortress above their pay grade. This is the invisible scoreboard. You need to map out the power dynamics of your company, identify the actual power players, the decision makers, and the key stakeholders. I am talking about the people sitting 2 or 3 levels above your toxic coworker. You need to become visible to them, provide value to them directly, speak up in their meetings, volunteer for cross-functional projects that align with their strategic goals. When you solve a problem, make sure the elite level of management knows your name is attached to the solution. This is not about sucking up. This is not about bringing donuts to the boss. Sucking up is begging for a favor without providing value. This is about strategic alignment. You are making yourself highly useful to the people who hold the actual power. Once you have advocates in rooms you aren't even in, the power dynamic permanently shifts. The toxic coworker becomes completely, utterly powerless against you. They can scheme, they can gossip, and they can roll their eyes all they want. But they will never make a direct move against you. Why? Because they know that attempting to smear your reputation is professional suicide. They know that if they attack you, they aren't just picking a fight with a peer. They are attacking someone who is backed by the people who sign their paychecks. You do not beat a toxic coworker by rolling around in the mud with them. You don't beat them by arguing with them in the break room. You beat them by outgrowing them. You make yourself an untouchable asset to the company, leaving them stuck at the bottom, playing petty games while you take their boss's job. The corporate system isn't designed to be fair. It's designed to optimize power. Stop being a predictable, emotional target and start building your untouchable leverage tomorrow. Subscribe if you're done being the prey.